Welcome to Just Energy Radio with your host, naturopath and medical intuitive, Dr. Rita Louise. We have learned from Einstein's theory that matter and energy are one. Physicists believe that all systems in nature have their own particular way of vibrating. From the swinging of a pendulum to the waves of the ocean to the light that brightens the sky each day, each of these oscillates at its own unique rate. The same holds true for every thought, feeling, event, or word we speak. Each has its own frequency or rate of vibration. What many of us don't realize is when we take everything in our universe down to its simplest form, it is all just energy. Join Dr. Rita Louise on a journey through time and space where past, present, and future collide. Today, what you believe may be called into question. What we want to know is, who made up the rules? Be brave and step outside the box. We are about to turn our world upside down and venture into the unknown. Hold on. We are departing our own beliefs and entering alternative realms. Enjoy the possibilities.
Hello and welcome to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for tuning into the show today. Yet another excellent episode we're going to have. In the first hour, we're going to be speaking to Jeffrey Gonzalez, an extra super cool guy, and we're going to be talking about the strange lights over Sacramento, as well as who knows where we're going to go. You just don't ever know. And in the second hour, we're going to be talking to Monique Chapman about tapping into universal energy and reclaiming your power. But Just Energy Radio is brought to you by soulhealer.com. And I just want to know, are attached entities controlling your life? Well, stop by soulhealer.com and discover all the services I offer that can help you experience health, healing, and wholeness in your life. Now, I have a number of announcements that I need to make that are very important. First, if you've been listening to the show regular, I've been promising to get information about the trip to Peru. It's finally all congealed together. And so it is now up on the webpage. It's all good. And so the tour is scheduled for June 1st through the 12th. It is being called In the Footsteps of Viracocha, Uncovering the Mysteries of the Inca World. And it's myself and Brian Forrester of Ancient Alien Claim. And we're going down there to really look for the gods. You know, it's not about measuring stuff, but it's more about going in and tapping into the energy of the locations. One of the things that I'm going to be bringing to the table is we're going to be experimenting with remote viewing techniques to see if we can discover who were the builders. You know, we're going to travel back in time and look at the energy, feel into the energy of the location and the stones. And like any good paranormal person, one of the things that we're going to get to do, which is going to be the really freaking coolest thing, is we're going to actually get to interact with some of the elongated skulls. I was told we'll get to touch them and connect with them. And so that's something I'm really excited to do. Actually, we're going to go check out a 2,000-year-old graveyard. It's just jam-packed with excellent sites, excellent locations we're going to go to. Brian's an expert on the whole Peruvian area, and it's going to be fun. So if you want more information about that, you can go to the Just Energy Radio webpage. That's www.justenergyradio.com. There's a big banner across the top. Or the Soul Healer webpage. That's www.soulhealer.com. But back up 1 second. On the Just Energy Radio webpage, I have a very exciting announcement. So this show, Just Energy Radio, was nominated by About.com for Best Radio Show. And so now they're doing that whole voting thing. And so if you listen to the show, if you're listening right now, open up another browser and go. Actually, if you go to the Just Energy Radio webpage and scroll down a little bit, you'll see a thing where you can just click right through and vote. And so you don't even have to like go to this page or that page. Just go to that, the Just Energy Radio page, click, vote. I've also was nominated for Best Medical Intuitive. So if you really love me, you'll vote for me twice, once in each category. And you can vote one time per day or one time per email address. But I did not say that out loud. Okay, let's see. Back to the regular announcements. I'm supposed to remind you that you can be kept informed of who's coming on to Just Energy Radio. You can while you're on that Just Energy Radio website, checking out the tour to Peru or voting for the show, you can sign up for our weekly newsletter. How simple is that? Or you can like Just Energy Radio on Facebook. But if you've missed an episode of the show, there are a number of ways that you can access it. Again, on the Just Energy Radio webpage, you can download the Inception Radio Network app for your phone, and so you can listen to the show in your car. How cool is that? You can hear the show live, obviously, on Inception Radio Network, or you can check out our YouTube channel where we put all of the show archives. There's almost 2 years of archives up on YouTube right now. And I think that's all of my announcements for today. And now I'm going to talk about Jeffrey and get him on the air because an hour is just not enough time. So Jeffrey Gonzalez founded the Sanger Paranormal Society 3 years ago after noticing a lot of paranormal activity in Central California. Jeffrey has had an interest in the paranormal ever since he saw a UFO over the skies of Sanger at a young age. He's also the state selection director and investigator for the world's largest reporting agency for UFOs, MUFON. He has a degree in electronics where he works as a technician at AT&T. He also has knowledge in security cameras and security systems, which allow Jeffrey to put what he knows to work in solving the mysteries of the paranormal. So from Sanger Paranormal Society.com, my good friend, Jeffrey Gonzalez. Hey, Jeffrey, how's it going?
Hey, Rita. How's it going?
It's great. I am so excited to have you on the phone.
Well, I appreciate you having me. Thanks.
For the listeners, Jeffrey and I met actually at a conference in Sacramento, and I don't know, we just kind of clicked. He interviewed me, and it was just really good, and I don't know. I'm just glad to be your friend.
Thanks. Appreciate it. We had fun out there. Had a great time.
Sure did. So, your bio just gives a very brief thing of how you got interested in the paranormal. So could you kind of, explain a little further how you became interested? Because I know you're not just interested in UFOs. You kind of do the ghost hunting thing. I mean, you do a lot. You're like me. You do a lot of stuff.
Right. Hey, for some reason I can't hear myself on the speakers, but you can hear me fine over there?
I hear you perfect.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay. Well, you know what? I got to change that bio because I don't know how long that bio has been on there. It's been, it says I started the Sanger Paranormal about 3 years ago. Actually, it's been about 7 or 8 years ago. So it's been a long time. And, I first started in ghost hunting, just like, the easiest paranormal subject you can get involved with would be ghost hunting. But then things started getting a little weirder around here, and people started coming to me about other things that were happening in the Fresno area, like, UFOs. And then somebody told me there was actual Bigfoot not too far away from Fresno, and I said, what? So and now I pretty much got my hands involved in just about everything paranormal down here. Conspiracy theories, underground bases. There's something going on in the Central Valley where I live, and it's I think it involves military, government, underground facilities, just like Area 51.
But we're going to come back to that.
All right.
So don't spoil it yet. So go back to you.
All right. You know what? I've loved the paranormal since I was a kid. I used to watch those shows like In Search of, Kolchak, The Night Stalker, Project Blue Book, and then the ultimate series, The X-Files, and that pretty much hooked me. And I saw Ghost Hunters taps when it first came out on TV, and I thought that was really cool. And I said, wait a minute, these guys are plumbers. If these guys can do that, so can I. I happen to have a degree in electronics. I used to install security systems, security cameras. So that's, I started to put some stuff together, and I started doing this on my own. I needed some help, so I got a team together, and now it's just full blown. I mean, what can I say?
But that's really cool. That's cool. And also you have your own, I want to say radio show, but it's not really a radio show. So could you kind of pitch yourself on that one? Share with the listeners because, you do a great interview.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Well, there was so much stuff going on down here in Fresno that I wanted to tell people about it. And sure, you have Facebook, but, you can only do so much on Facebook. And I needed to really show the people what was going on. So At first, I had a show, audio show on the internet, and then that just wasn't enough. I had things I wanted to show people, so I built a studio in my home, and I am now streaming live video. I have a show called SPS Radio that I broadcast out of my home every Sunday night at 7, and on live stream. And I am able to physically show people now the stuff that I get. And, I have great videos, great photographs that you will not see anywhere else on the net. And this comes straight from people who have these sightings. And, it's just the stuff that I show blow people away. And I think I'm doing really well. A lot of people seem to enjoy what I do. And I get a kick out of it. So I got the Sanger Paranormal Society, and now I got a internet TV show, I guess you could say. And it's doing really well, and I'm excited. And, hopefully some good things are going to be coming up here in the near future.
Well, that's great. And so what's the webpage where people can go check it out?
They can go to my website at sangerparanormalsociety.com, and on the homepage there is a link to the studio picture of me in there. Just click on it, and there's back archive that you can go and watch.
Perfect.
And on Sundays at 7 o'clock I turn on, and you can watch me.
All right. And I can wave to you and go, I know that guy.
I know that dummy.
No. Well, not much after we had met, we were watching that Chasing Aliens, Chasing UFO show.
Right.
One of them. I don't know. And we were, watching this one episode, and there you were. And I was like, I know that guy. And so
yeah. All the stuff that I'm putting out now, people are paying attention to, and so is Hollywood. And now they're starting to send their reality shows down here to figure out exactly what's going on. And like you said, you saw me on Chasing UFOs. Well, Chasing UFOs did a full episode on Fresno, and that's a full hour, 45 minutes. They were down here for 8 days straight filming, man. Those guys had so much fun. They had so much stuff to show people. They didn't want to leave. I take that back. About a month ago, I had a Swedish production company here from Sweden that did a special on UFOs. And now I have the Discovery Channel coming in April from England. They're going to be doing they have a new show coming out on massive sightings, and they're going to be down here doing an episode on the massive sighting that we had here last year.
Well, and what happened?
Well, that particular it was last summer. I have a network going on down here. I have a 24-hour UFO hotline. And I have skywatchers planted all over the city of Fresno. And when a sighting comes in, people are now they call me on my 24-hour hotline, and I'm able to either go outside or notify everyone else. You know what? You need to go outside and look, southeast, and we have some weird lights happening, and you guys need to start videotaping. Well, last summer I got a call. There was an object in the sky right around, started about 11 o'clock in the morning. I got the call at 3 o'clock in the afternoon from my skywatcher. And I went outside, and sure as hell, man, there it was. It was in the atmosphere. And I looked through my binoculars, and there was a craft up there, and it wasn't moving. It was rotating, and it looked like the space shuttle. But the only problem is we don't have space shuttles up in space anymore. And another thing is space shuttles don't stop and hover in one spot for about 6 hours. And this thing was. And, well, to make a long story short, I went to Facebook. I notified everybody. Next thing you know, NBC here in Fresno is calling me because they saw my post, and they went outside, got video footage, and another major radio station called me and said, Jeff, what is it? And I said, man, I wish I could tell you, but we're all documenting it right now. And with that said, we have a lot of footage, some photographs, and when they come down, we're going to let them have everything, and they're going to speak to, because there was hundreds and hundreds of people who saw this thing.
Wow.
And we don't know what it was, and it just doesn't make any sense.
And the part I find interesting is all of that happened, and it got really zero media coverage.
Exactly. Nowhere in the United States except for Fresno. because, they right away they said, well, it's a space shuttle. But, if they were smart, they know that the space shuttle stopped, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago already. So that wasn't the space shuttle. And they don't want to touch this stuff. They don't.
But I think that's interesting because, Stephenville got national press. I
sure
think.
Did. Yeah, I did. Absolutely. What a world. And you know what? We didn't. This one we really didn't push out in the media. I mean, it's like because it's this happens all the time in Fresno, so it's nothing new to us. The media here in Fresno follow me like a hawk on Facebook, so they know exactly what's going on. And I think that they are tired of all the sightings here in Fresno, and they're only putting up so much of it now because before they used to, report on it all the time because I have, like I said, I have videos that people send me, photographs that people send me. Sometimes my phone will go off and I'll have, 8 people calling in, all witnessing the same thing. And these people don't even know each other. I even have Fresno police calling me now. And I've actually had a couple of police officers text me photographs that they actually snapped with their cell phone.
So why do you think there's all this activity going on in that area?
Well, to the northeast, right over the mountain range, I mean, and I don't want to say right over, we're talking about maybe 200 miles. We have Area 51, which is not too far away from us. And then southeast, we have a location called China Lake. And then to the south, we have Lemoore Naval Air Base. So let's just say a lot of these crafts that we are witnessing, maybe they're top secret military crafts. But, maybe they want to test them over somewhere, over some cities to see how people react. And maybe that's what they're doing. But there's only one problem. There has been several occasions, and we talk about this on our radio show because I have all the witnesses where people will call in, they will be witnessing something, and all of a sudden the jets take off out of the airport. We happen to have the National Guard here at the Fresno Air Terminal, the 144th Fighter Wing. They are controlled by NORAD, and NORAD pretty much controls all of our military. They know what's flying in our airspace. They know what's supposed to be there and what is not. And our jets here take care of the West Coast. So we have many witnesses have seen these jets chasing UFOs over Fresno. And when I say UFOs, I'm saying unidentified flying objects. I don't think these jets would be chasing our own crafts, especially over public territory. They just don't do that.
Go ahead, keep going.
No. So what the heck are they chasing? If it's not ours, could it be another country? No, I don't think it could be another country because that's an act of war if they're going to be flying their aircraft over our country. So, by eliminating all the possibilities, then what do you think it could be? I don't know. I don't want to say it's, little green men from Mars or another galaxy, but why would our military dispatch the jet to chase these things away from Fresno? And that's what we get here a lot. And again, there's many theories, I don't know if you want to get into it now as far as the secret underground military base, but
let me ask you a couple of questions and then we'll
Sure.
go there next. Okay. So when they see these craft, I'll just say craft in the sky, I mean, because like an airplane, they're pretty high up, but I would think, and I'm just kind of speculating here, that if you had some kind of a telephoto lens or whatever, that you would be able to discern, in the imagery that it was an airplane. And so when they take these pictures and they blow them up, are they not able to tell what they are, or is all of this activity happening in the evenings? What's making it that they're not being able to really get a clear view of what's flying around? Because it sounds like you can tell when the jet fighters are out there.
Right. Well, when the jets take off after these certain crafts, most of these crafts are round orbs type of crafts. We can really get into it. I'm going to give you one scenario that occurred. there was a family that called me on the west side of Fresno. At this point in time, I had like 5 calls come in that some orbs were being chased by these jets coming out of the Fresno airport. This family called me from the west side, and they said, Jeff, you're not going to believe this, but we were outside in the country. We were having a campfire, and all of a sudden we see this large black triangle craft about the size of a football field or a little bit longer, just cruising at a low altitude in the dark and just cruising. But what he told me is that the bottom opened up and these orbs fell out of it and the orbs took off. And that's when the other calls started coming in about, people witnessing these jets chasing these orbs. And I'm going, you got to be freaking kidding me.
So kind of like you would hear about the Foo Fighters, it was just these like balls of light. All right, let me ask a different question. Because I'm just trying to imagine this thing in my mind.
Sure.
And so when you see the military craft chasing after them, can you tell that that's an airplane? That's a F-16 or whatever. And that's not?
Oh, absolutely. Well, yeah, because, when you witness a airplane at night, and everybody has, looked up in the night sky. And, helicopters and airplanes have to have certain lighting configurations on them in order to fly at night. Airplanes have to have a couple of strobes on them. They have to have like a green and red light on the wingspan, right? And then one on the tail. So, an airplane has to be all lit up. A helicopter is the same way. You have to have strobes on it, different color lights on it, because it's just, you have to. It's law. But when you have a one solid bright light screeching across, Fresno, and all of a sudden make a left turn and stops and then continues, and then maybe 2 other catch up to it, and then all of a sudden you hear, really loud streaky noise coming out of the airport, and then 3 jets take off out of the airport, and now you have people telling me, dude, these jets are chasing those lights. Those aren't airplanes and those aren't helicopters. That's what happens here in Fresno all the freaking time.
That's just, you just try to wrap your mind. All right, we don't have that kind of excitement in Texas, okay?
Okay. No. Well, let me tell you something. The reason why we are witnessing this stuff is because I have a network, and it works down here. I bet you this happens all the time in different states all around the country, probably the world. But the one problem that people have is when they're outside, they do not look up. When was the last time when you walked outside, you just looked up and you stared at the sky for 20 minutes at a time? You don't do that, do you?
No. Well,
okay.
it would make the assumption that I went outside.
Right. Okay. Well, let me tell you, I have people out here who that's what they do at nighttime during the day. They go outside, they sit in their lawn chair with a cup of coffee, with the video camera. I have a guy who's a sky watcher who is he is physically disabled. He had a motorcycle accident about 10 years ago. He can walk in the whole 9 yards, but he now goes and he doesn't work. So what he does is when it starts getting warmer, he'll go outside at about 7 o'clock and he'll sit on the top of his roof all the way until 5 o'clock in the morning. And he gets some great stuff on video. The guy from Fresno, his name is Robert Thorsten. One of his videos, actually, he got called the Sony Pictures, the movie Battle of Los Angeles, actually used one of his videos for the trailer of the movie and paid him $500 for like 3 seconds of it.
Wow, cool.
Okay, so you have to understand, people are noticing people are definitely talking about Fresno. And you can see all this on my Facebook wall, because when somebody gets a photograph of something, it gets placed on there. And, hey, wait a minute, that's not a helicopter, that's not an airplane. What the hell is that? It's, and that's the stuff that people are getting. And again, because of my network that I put together 6 years ago, it has grown so much that now it's all over the Central Valley, and we are well connected. And when there's something going over Fresno that's not supposed to be there, everybody knows, and everybody gets outside with the video cameras and start videotaping, and a lot of time we get the best stuff.
How much do you relate of what you're getting to being next door to Area 51 and all of these quote unquote top secret bases? I mean, do you think there is, do you think it's the military that's doing this? Do you talk about that part a little bit more?
Sure. Well, I believe that a majority of it is probably coming from our secret military bases. And from what I understand, we have several of them around the Fresno area. And again, Area 51, that's the biggie. Now, but then again, and this goes back to the jets chasing these unidentified flying objects. The jets would not go and start chasing our aircraft. They would not do that. Okay, we're talking, $1 million, $50 million per jet to be going, they just don't do that.
And so, and let me just interject. So if it was a experimental aircraft coming out of Area 51, for example, they wouldn't turn on the jets to go chasing after them. And if they did get activated, they would get the call like stand down, go back home kind of thing.
Right. And what I'm thinking, though, is that if it's our government testing this stuff, well, they're going to notify NORAD, and they know exactly what hours and what's flying over Fresno. That's a given.
Mm-hmm.
But, when our jets take off chasing these darnest things, they're not ours. I can tell you right now. I've had military personnel tell me, Jeff, I've been in the military for, 15, 20 years. We do not do maneuvers like that over public areas, because if one of our jets happened to crash and kill 10 people, man, that's it. We're done. So if they're going to do these private maneuvers or whatever it is, they're going to either do it over the desert or over the ocean, but not over millions of people. They just don't do that. Now, why is there a lot of action over Fresno?
I don't know. You tell me.
I have several theories, actually. I have many people tell me that we have possibly an underground facility, actually two of them north of Fresno. Now, what does that have to do with, unidentified flying objects, especially if they're not ours? I talk about this on my show, and I give great details. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to give you just part of what I think is going on, because when I announce to you right now what I think is going on, a lot of people are going to think pretty much I'm on drugs. Okay, but that's not the case.
You're not.
Okay, because you have to understand, I'm not the only one who's witnessing all this. When Chasing UFOs were here filming for 8 days straight, every single day we were being followed by people in white vehicles. We were being monitored. I am now being monitored on my 24-hour hotline. They monitored me really, really closely. From what I understand is we've had a couple of underground facilities north of Fresno since the late 40s, early 50s here in Fresno. And from what I understand, it's almost as similar as Area 51. Now, why you're probably going, how do you know this, Jeff? Well, when you have a certain area where there are white vehicles monitoring this mountain, when you have a triangle that crashed on this particular mountain, and Anthony Sanchez would know about this because, when this happened in 2010, he was going to write about it in his book. When this triangle crashed, and I'm pretty sure it was ours, when I got the call on it, not more than 5 minutes later, military vehicles, trucks, and SUVs and cars ascended on this crash within 5 minutes. Okay, now you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute. Now the airport is nowhere near where this triangle crashed in 2010, and anybody, it's out there. Go and Google it. It's all over the net for people who want to go read about this.
Well, I just find it's interesting. It lands, crashes in this like kind of obscure place, but
right.
They're all over it.
Exactly.
Before before you even knew it landed.
Right. Well, I got the call. The people who witnessed this crash, basically this triangle craft, probably it just lost its it crashed, it landed, and so mechanical difficulties. I'm thinking it probably was ours. I'm pretty much guaranteeing it was one of our secret planes or secret whatever it was. But then again, like I said, we had vehicles ascend on it within 5 minutes. And I actually went to the location when I got the call, and I videotaped some stuff on the side of the hill that I can't explain. I had vehicles coming from over this mountain that there are not supposed to be any roads on the other side of this mountain. Yet there were vehicles coming. There's people running around with flashlights on the side of this hill. It looked like that there was arc welding. And as a matter of fact, some of the stuff you saw in Chasing UFOs, as a matter of fact, they interviewed two of the witnesses who witnessed that whole thing on that Chasing UFOs episode. I mean, I can go, and now I'm going to tell you something that's going to blow you away. This is right up your alley.
Okay, blow me away, Jeffrey.
I think I found some ancient ruins north of Fresno.
Really?
Yep.
Well, but that doesn't really.
Well,
it really doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, I even had Alex Chinetti down here, and when he called me, he wanted some information on Sanger Paranormal Society, and I told him about it, and then I knew he was very involved in the South America, the pyramid, Inca, Mayan stuff. And I said, oh, by the way, Alex, I think I found some ancient ruins. And he said, yeah, right, whatever. And I and I actually sent him a couple of pictures, emailed him at that point in time when I was talking to him. I got a call. He said, Jeff, I'm coming tomorrow. I'm coming over to Fresno tomorrow. And he came. He came to Fresno. And I don't know if you know who Alex Chinetti is.
No, I'm not familiar with him.
He has done a lot of stuff on ancient aliens. He's knows a lot about the South America pyramids, ancient ruins. Mm-hmm. And he actually came down and I actually took him to those ruins. And he says, these things don't look like of this era. And as a matter of fact, he goes, Jeff, he goes, these look like they're Mayan. And I go, I kind of figured as much. It's so conspiracy. It's not even funny.
But I want to go back to the underground bases because I have to tell you, Jeffrey, that has become one of my new areas of fascination because there are so many. See, I mean, we could spend probably 4 or 5 hours just talking about all the freaking theories that are out there about what's going on in these bases. And so what have you heard? I mean, I feel like you're a trusted source, and I feel like you bring a definite level of skepticism to the table. So what have you heard, and what's your feeling with regard to some of the things that people say are going on? And let me just share, and I'm not going to share everything, but I have heard, I was aware of the base, that they claim is in Dulce, and then, the underground facility in Area 51, and they're connected by, tunnels and stuff and the high-speed train. And I would assume that there, Area 51's right there. There might be a piece of the base or another base where you are. So what have you heard and what do you know? Because actually there were a couple of people in the chat room that want me to go there, and I wanted to go there.
Okay, well, if you want, what I'll do is after we finish talking, I will text you over some texts that I have, and I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. That this is going to be one proof. When Chasing UFOs came out, and I don't know if you remember the episode, James Fox and I went into a tunnel.
Right, with the
Fresno.
water drainage.
Exactly, exactly. Now, right after that episode aired, I got a phone call on my 24-hour hotline from this guy, and he said, hey, Jeff, this is so-and-so. He said, hey, I just saw your episode on Chasing UFOs. And he goes, 20 years ago, I did a lot of hiking up north of Fresno, and I went into several of those tunnels, and one particular tunnel, which I believe is not too far from the one you guys went into, I started to get a bloody nose, and my head started to hurt. and I had to get out of there really quick. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. And he said, I also found 2 other ones northeast of Fresno. And I said, well, cool. Do you remember? Do you think you can remember to locate them on Google Earth? And he said, well, it was 20 years ago. I'm pretty sure I can still do it. So I told him, do me a favor, get on Google Earth, pin that spot, and then send me a snapshot so that way I can get out there. And he said, okay, no problem. Well, he was supposed to get back to me a week later. I didn't hear anything from him. And then about a month later, I get a text message from a girl, Stacy, who's a Facebook friend who happens to also be a friend of his. She goes, hey, did you happen to hear from so-and-so, and I'm not going to say his name, so-and-so, on the locations of those other tunnels? I said, no, he hasn't. And I said, well, this is what happened. He said the day after he texted you on Facebook, he had a visitor at his home, and it was an unpleasant visitor. The visitor basically told him to leave it alone. He said, we know what you did. I'm trying to remember this verbatim. We know what you did when you were at a younger age. I guess it was pertaining to his work. He says, the ball is in your court. Leave it alone. So now let's think about that. Okay, this guy called me on the phone, and he texted me on my Facebook wall.
Right, but you also already know that you're bugged.
Yes. So this guy found something north of Fresno, and he was going to tell me exactly where it was, but somebody paid him a visit and said, no, stop right now. You're not going to communicate with Jeffrey anymore. Now, I happen to have texts that he sent me the first time, and also the text that Stacy sent me concerning his visitor. And I actually talked about it on my show, I guess maybe about 3 weeks ago. And I showed it because on my show, I can show you the actual videos. What I did is I took snapshots of these text messages from Facebook, and I put them up. And so that right there is telling you, okay, why would somebody pay him a visit and tell him not to talk to me anymore? That was one scenario. Another scenario is I have a friend who used to live up in the Barstow area, and he used to work on air conditioning units up there, because in Barstow, it gets to be about 120 frickin' degrees. So he told me, he pulled me aside one day, and he goes, Jeff, I'm going to tell you something that happened to me that I think you're going to find really interesting. And I said, what? He goes, I was working on an air conditioning unit for an older man who lived in Barstow. And he came outside, and he asked him, he goes, Adolf, do you mind if I watch you? And he said, no, not at all. So as he was working on the air conditioning unit, the older gentleman started to make small talk, and he goes, Adolf, so where are you from? And he goes, oh, I'm from some, a small town by Fresno. You probably never heard of it, Sanger. And he goes, oh, I know where Sanger's at. And he goes, yeah, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, and then the older gentleman said, I bet you see a lot of UFOs out there, don't you? And my buddy Adolf stopped and turned around and said, huh? I said, yeah, you guys must see a lot of UFOs out there. And the Adolf had mentioned to me, he goes, when they were doing small talk before that, conversation started, he remembered him saying he was an engineer, but he thought a train engineer, because that's all there are down there in the Barstow area is trained, a lot of trains. So he thought it was talking about being an engine engineer type, driving the trains around. But then he says, you mean you don't know Adolf? And the guy goes, what? He goes, oh, there's an underground facility north of Fresno. They actually re-engineer crashed UFOs there. And I'm going, what?
I know. It's like you hear some of this stuff and your crazy-making machine goes, all right, is it me? Am I crazy? Can this possibly be true? Whatever. But you know what was interesting? I mean, in that episode that you were in, it appeared to be like a water drainage thing. But I want to. Have you ever read? I mean, probably not, but I'll just throw it out there. But have you ever done any research and come upon Plato's talking about the underground and subterranean chambers?
No, I have not.
But I'm just going to read like 2 sentences to you. So it's talking about these subterranean caverns under the earth. And it says, now all of these are connected with one another by many subterranean channels, some larger and some smaller, which are born in all of them. And there are passageways through which much water flows from one to another. And basically his commentary was that the water from the surface of the earth flows down to the bottom level of this chamber and then flows back up and out as like artesian springs thing.
Well, I believe...
And this is Plato writing in like 300 BC.
Way out there. Now, we can... Again, when I say there are stuff happening here in Fresno, I mean there are stuff happening. And I'm talking, let's say, for example, missing people.
Do you think that this underground base is military, or do you think that it has this whole reptilian agenda thing going on attached to it?
Bingo.
Well, let's go there.
Okay.
Because that's the part that I just,
Okay.
It's really hard to believe.
Sure, I know, and who would have thought that I would be talking about reptilian aliens? Really?
Well, me either.
I know. And when I talk about this stuff on my show, I sort of kind of laugh about it, but I have to calm myself down because I'm telling myself I'm actually talking about this, and to me it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but there are things going on that are telling me that there might be reptilian related, and what's giving me a hint that there's a possibility is missing people. There are the Yosemite National Park and the Sierras are the #1 location for missing people throughout the United States national parks. I don't know if you knew that or not. There is a book called Missing 411 that's written by David Paulides. He has written a book about missing people. He's a retired police officer, but he's also a Bigfoot investigator. And he has basically documented missing people that has turned up and not turned up and have disappeared right in front of families, little kids who have disappeared not more than 10 feet from their families that are camping up in the mountains not too far away from Fresno. Now, if you go and read all these books, if you go read all these, theories about reptilians happen to be the #1 bad alien that they are out there. And there's one thing that the reptilians like to do is they like to eat humans. And then you can go and pull that up. It's all over the internet. I'm not the one that's making this stuff up. And then now we're talking about, missing people. Why are there so many freaking? I mean, in Fresno, on the newscast, and especially during the summer, we have people who like to go camping, hiking, riding their bikes up in the high Sierras and the low Sierras, and maybe once a week or twice a week we get hiker missing, biker missing, hiker missing, and nonstop. But the bad part about it is that we don't hear that they've been found. And there's a book, like I said, there's a book called Missing 411 by David Paulides. There's 2 books, an East Coast and a West Coast. Get the West Coast. It's an orange one. It's going to blow your freaking mind. And this is the stuff that's going on. I mean, I have people, I don't know if you've ever heard of you know what, you were there at the UFO con, so they talked about it, and I don't know if you missed it or not, but the night crawlers of Fresno. Do you remember that video? Maybe not. Okay, for all the people who are watching or listening right now, go to YouTube, type in Night Crawlers of Fresno. In 2008, in central Fresno, mind you, in the frickin' city, a gentleman who happens to be Spanish speaking, and I'm bringing this up because it makes a difference. This gentleman, he has a front yard and it's enclosed with wrought iron, and he has like 3 or 4 kids, and they always leave their toys out in front. Well, older kids were coming.
Nope, we're good.
Oh, we're good. Okay.
Wow, it got way quieter, didn't it?
It did. That was weird. Okay.
Well, no. I guess Jamie was not muted, and he goes, "Let me," because I was telling him that I was hearing you like, rah, rah, I could make you out enough, and I'm thinking, man, don't be shutting my show down.
Man, okay.
And can I just throw this in since we're kind of talking about them?
Yes.
Somebody in the chat room asked if you've ever had any visits yourself from our friends in black.
No, I have not. No men in black, no government officials, nothing. And, you know, a lot of people tell me, Jeff, you need to be careful. You need to be careful. Well, you know, it is scary sometimes, but you know what? My name is now out there. Everybody knows who I am, thank God. All the media, I'm friends with all the top anchors here in the Fresno, Fox News, you know, NBC, ABC. I know everybody really well. So if something happens to me, they know that it was because I was getting close. Now, I've also protected myself even further. I have put together 6 envelopes with some stuff that I have never even talked about on my show or to anybody else that would probably pretty much pinpoint on what's really going on. I have given these 6 envelopes to 6 different people, and I've advised them that if something ever happens to me and I happen to either disappear or somehow die of, let's say, for example, I hang myself,
you commit suicide by shooting yourself in the back of the head and the gun disappears? You mean like that?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden they find me hanging, okay? Yeah. Now, I've told them if this ever happens, they are to release these envelopes to the people who I have written on them. And then we're talking media, we're talking some high people. Okay, so I'm trying to cover my behind. I'm also, I'm a family man. I'm married, I have a mortgage, I have 2 kids, I have 3 dogs and 2 cats. So, people know I would never, ever, ever kill myself under any circumstances. I am considered to be very healthy. I work for AT&T, so I climb poles every day. So I'm cool. I'm good. I can, I'm not going to die of a heart attack tomorrow. So the question is, have I been threatened? No, I have not. Do I know that they're listening to me? Abso-frickin-lutely, I know they do, because there's several occasions where I'm on the phone talking to some people reporting a UFO sighting, and I'm about to get the exact location, and bam, my iPhone goes dead. Now people are going, well, you know what? Maybe you lost. You didn't have any bars. Maybe you're in a location where you don't have any service. No, I have 2 iPhones. Okay, my personal and my 24-hour hotline, which is my other iPhone. And it happens a lot. Are we talking to somebody? All of a sudden I say, okay, where is it? And they'll go, it, and we go dead. And we'll go dead like 3 times. And then by the time you know it, the person will say it's gone. I'm all, crap. Well, they did it to me again. Mm-hmm. And that's happened several times. Okay. Now, I haven't found, I'm pretty observant. When I'm driving around, I always keep my eyes open and to see what type of vehicle is following me or what have you. And I have never caught anybody doing that yet. What's funny, though, is that when Chasing UFOs were down here, the assistant producer who was getting everything done, getting ready for them to come down and shoot the week prior, she was being harassed by the police. They were, following her everywhere around Fresno. This poor little girl who was 5'2", just making sure that, everything they got the permits for filming. She was getting harassed big time. Well, there's definitely something going on here. And let me tell you another really quick thing that happened that I think is going to put a perspective in people. Like I said right now, people are probably going, no, this is BS. There's nothing like that going on in Fresno. Well, in 2001, when President Bush Jr. Became president, I believe it was May or March. I think it was May. He came to Fresno. They said, President Bush is going to come to Fresno, and they're going to take him up to the Sierra Nevadas to go talk about the redwood trees. How do we need to preserve our forest? So he came down. Air Force One brought him to the Fresno Air Terminal. 4 Army helicopters took him, his Secret Service, all the media and entourage, and they took him in 4 helicopters up to the Sierras. This is all documented, people. You can go and pull it up. May 2001, President Bush visits Fresno. Now, he does his stuff, at the redwoods in front of a podium, yada, yada, yada. You got to save the forest. Well, you would think, okay, it's time to go back to the White House. Let's go back, take the helicopters, let everybody, bring everybody back. Well, 3 of the helicopters brought back his entourage, all the media, and the rest of the people. But guess what? President Bush stayed in a cabin up in the mountains that night. Now, I had a friend, and this is all documented, people. When was the last time you guys heard of a president of the United States staying up in the mountains in a cabin? Air Force One is not more than 15-minute flight from helicopter from the mountains to the Fresno Air Terminal. But no, he decided to stay at a cabin in the Fresno Mountains. Now get this. I have somebody who used to be working for the Department of Forestry who used to live up there. At 1 o'clock in the morning, he heard a helicopter. Now, you remember when I said 3 helicopters came back to Fresno, but 1 helicopter stayed back up in the mountains. And they have to do that because, the helicopter has to be on standby with the president at all times. Well, at 1 o'clock in the morning, he said he heard the helicopter go up and go north of Fresno and land someplace that way. And then at 5 o'clock in the morning, it came back and landed. Well, think about that. What the hell would the helicopter be doing going north of Fresno?
Well, Baby Bush always kind of looked a little reptilian to me anyway.
Well, no. But no, you have to understand, too, President Bush's dad, senior, does everybody remember what he used to do? He used to be the director of the CIA. So his dad knows everything you want to know about anybody, everything, the know-how. So maybe he wanted to show his son what was really going on in the world. Now, if there was something north of Fresno, that's where he went. They had it to create some type of a diversion to get him to there. Well, they couldn't have taken him to Las Vegas and put up in a hotel because everybody and their mother is going to be watching that the hotel wherever he's staying at. So he could never fly out of there. Well, this was a way to get him from point A to point B. And like you were saying, if people go read on the internet, there are stories about all of these underground facilities are interconnected with one of our magnetic trains that probably could get you from here to Los Angeles in 5 minutes. And from what I understand, all these underground facilities are connected with this one train. So let's say President Bush Sr. wanted to show his son what was really going on in Area 51 or Dulce or Edward Air Force Base, who knows where. Well, maybe this train happens to go underground to north of Fresno, wherever that underground facility is. He hops on that train, boom, he goes to, let's say, Area 51 or wherever. And he comes back in time to fly back to his cabin at 5 o'clock in the morning.
It's amazing. Just amazing. I mean, the more you start, I've always been very fascinated with underground bases and, because my whole thing has been really about the mythology and so actually I just finished a piece that looks at mythology and then the claims that have been made by people like you and about the reptilians and this and that. And I have to tell you, mythology supports just about everything that's being told.
Well, let me tell you, mythology. Now, going back to those night crawlers of Fresno.
Yeah.
Okay. This gentleman, the older kids were taking his younger kids' toys, so he decided to go to a store called Harbor Freight and buy a $30 cheap security camera, right? And back in 2008, the only type of technology this guy had was a VCR. So he hooked up his security camera to a VCR, to a little black and white TV, and presto, now he has a security system. Well, one night, excuse me, his dogs in his backyard were barking like he's never heard them bark before. I think he had like 5 chihuahuas or something, and they were just like barking, hollering, and he's going, what the hell is going on? So he gets up, he walks up to the front of the family room, turns on the black and white TV. Mind you that the VCR is recording, but the black and white TV was off. So he turns it on, and all of a sudden he notices these 2.5 foot things walking across his front yard. And he's going, what the hell is that? And all of a sudden, one passes by the camera, another one walks by the front yard. And he's going, what the? Well, he freaks out. He gets this on video. Mind you, a VCR tape, okay? He sits on it for a while. He finally says, I got to find out what these things are. And, at that time, he didn't have internet. He didn't have a computer. He's a Spanish-speaking man. He happens, he doesn't have the technology to hoax this. He takes the VCR tape to Univision, the Spanish station, because he speaks Spanish. That's all he does, speak Spanish, no English. He goes, can you please tell me what this is? And they pop the VCR, the tape in the VCR, and they're going, holy mackerel. Well, they got permission to him to put it on the air. And the thing went worldwide on the Spanish station. Mind you, the English station didn't even touch it. Well, to make a long story short, that people started talking about this. I tried to debunk it. I couldn't. As a matter of fact, the Sci-Fi Channel TV show called Fact or Fake, the first episode, the first series season, they came down to Fresno to try to debunk it, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't even do it. Now, when it's like, what were these things? Were they aliens? Were they reptilians? I don't think so. But I think they, when you talk about mythology, I believe that there's also different types of creatures that are involved in mythology, and you're definitely more involved in that than I am. But we're talking about like elementals, like fairies, trolls, stuff like that. I believe that's what these creatures were to me. Were like some type of goblins or trolls.
Now I'm going to have to. So how clear? See, I haven't ever seen that.
Oh,
and see, I just thought, okay, so when they had that thing playing, I just thought it was like some scary movie. I didn't know what the heck it was. Sorry. Now I'm going to go check it out.
Absolutely.
And, I will give you my 2 cents, but
Sure.
How clear is the image? So when you watch it, I'm assuming you see the footage, is it decent?
It's grainy because it's at nighttime, okay, mind you. But then you have to think about this. I try to debunk it. The whatever they were 2 feet, 2.5 feet tall. I know that for a fact. Why would it? To this day, this gentleman has not made any money on this at all. Okay, when I spoke to him in 2008, he didn't even own a computer. What would be the purpose of somebody trying to hoax him?
There isn't. I mean,
exactly,
that's the thing.
Exactly.
There isn't.
Exactly. So, people can look at that and say, you know what, it was computer generated. Well, no, it was not. Okay, it's 2 guys it's 2 little kids wearing costumes. No, it is not. Because again, these things were only 2 feet, 2.5 feet tall. Fact or Faked could not even debunk it. As a matter of fact, they were trying to debunk it with like 5-foot robots. And they went and grabbed like a 13-year-old kid and put him in white and told him to walk across the grass. I'm all, you guys serious? Come on, you guys. I mean, I've always didn't like Fact or Faked anyways, but they really messed up that particular episode. And to this day, they could not figure out what they were.
Jeffrey, I'm looking at the clock. We have like a minute. You're right. This hour went so fast.
I told you.
Well, you'll just have to come back.
Okay.
That'll be fine.
No problem. Let me know when. We will continue on.
And so give out like your webpage information when your show comes on, where people can go check out, the pictures and whatever you have that you post on your sites, etc.
The main thing I want people to do is watch me on my Sunday night shows, because I'm going to blow your mind. And it's on live stream. And just search SPS Radio. Or, again, you can go to my website at Sanger Paranormal Society. It's Sanger spelled S as in Sam, A-N-G-E-R. Or type in SPS Radio, Sanger Paranormal Society Radio. And my show is on 7 o'clock West Coast time. 7 o'clock West Coast time. And, you can watch it, and I will show you the stuff that's going on, not only here in Fresno, but all over the place. I got contacts all over the United States, and they send me the coolest stuff. That, cool. Again, that it will just blow your mind. So,
all right. Well, I know the music's going to come up, and Jeffrey, thank you so much for coming on. And what was I going to say? I'm going to go look at that video, and
go look at it.
We need to talk.
Okay. Awesome.
I will talk to you again later, and
awesome.
We'll be back with Monique Chapman after these words from our sponsors.
Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise, will return right after these messages.